Living paycheck to paycheck is no joke. And I know because I have personal experience. I've lived that way during 2 time periods in my life. And I want to share with you how those time periods came about, what did I do to overcome it, and finally I want to share with you 4 tips that I've implemented in my life to ensure that that lifestyle of check to check is just a distant memory, something that I can reflect on here in videos, but never have to live again. What's up, my people, and welcome to the channel. My name is Diamond, and this is the place where personal finance intersects with the real world to help you achieve your financial goals. If you're new to the channel, welcome to the community. And if you're an existing subscriber, then thank you for your continued support. Let's jump into it. In my video entitled Screw You Poverty, I showed a tax return where it showed in 1 year I made just over $12,000 for the year. And this is the first time period in my life where I want to talk about how I was living paycheck to paycheck. And $12,000 is not a lot of money. And in fact, $12,000, that's not like paycheck to paycheck, because really during that time, I wasn't making it to the next paycheck. That was like paycheck, hey, can I get a bridge loan? Yo, can I borrow $20 to payday? That was that part of my life. That was the lifestyle during that time. And I was around 20 years old during this period, and I had a house. It was an apartment, but I had an apartment. It was mine. I had it furnished and everything. I had a job. I was in school. I had a car, and I had all the bills that came with it. And so I had to pay the rent, put the lights on, put food on the table, and do everything that a young adult has to do to take care of themselves. And I was doing all that off of just $12,000. So right now I want to just blow that myth out the window that people think that, oh, if you live in paycheck to paycheck, that just means that you're just irresponsible and you're just blowing all your money and you just have no plan. That's not true, because in that period of my life, I was very on point with my money. In fact, during that time, if I forgot to carry the one, my lights might not have got paid. So I had to be on it with every single penny. I didn't have no room to spare. And in order to overcome this paycheck to paycheck lifestyle, I believe it's 4 things that you have to do. And these are things that I did. The first thing you have to do, identify it as a problem. Then you have to determine why that is the problem. And then you have to develop a plan to overcome it. And finally, you have to stay focused. And during this period, it didn't take no rocket scientist to figure out why I was so broke and living from check to check. It was simple. I wasn't making a lot of money. I needed to make more money. So in order to get out of this paycheck to paycheck lifestyle, I just thought all I needed to do was just go make some money. So that was my plan. And that's what I did. I picked up a second job. I was working on a promotion in my first job. I picked up a side hustle. I did all of that in order to make more money. And it was working. Slowly but surely, I started working it out and I started making a little bit more money. And eventually I was able to get past that check to check lifestyle. Now, that don't mean that it was over, because remember, I said I had 2 periods in my life where I was living paycheck to paycheck. So from around 18 to around 22, I was definitely in that paycheck to paycheck lifestyle, working hard, trying to get my income up, just trying to get away from poverty. Because screw you, poverty. You should check that video out if you haven't watched it already. Then from around 22, 23 to around 26, 27 time frame, I kind of went on autopilot. I kind of went in coast mode a bit. The wife had graduated. She was into her career. We didn't have any kids. We didn't have a ton of debt. It was just us, and we were just living our lives. But now this is going to take me into the second time period in my life where I was living paycheck to paycheck. And even though in this second period, I was making significantly more money than the $12,000 a year, this time, the check-to-check lifestyle was even harder. Now remember, the 4 steps to getting away from living paycheck to paycheck is: 1, identify it as a problem. 2, determine why you're living paycheck to paycheck. 3, develop a plan to overcome that problem. And 4 is stay focused. Those are the 4 steps that I took. But this second period in my life, that first step, identify it as a problem. Identify yourself as a person living paycheck to paycheck. That was the hardest thing to do. Because unlike the first time where I actually didn't have enough money to make it to the next check, so it was obvious that I was living paycheck to paycheck, this second time was a little different. Because the second go round, I was around 27, I was working good, and I was making good money. We were making good money. And I thought people who lived paycheck to paycheck was broke people who couldn't pay their bills, who was struggling, pawning stuff, borrowing money to get to the next check. Like, in my mind, that's how I pictured people living paycheck to paycheck because I had lived that life. But this time was a lot different. And the reason it was hard for me to identify myself as a family that was living paycheck to paycheck was because we had a lot of cash flow. We were not broke. We were not the broke person that I was thinking of and the person that I was when I was young. We actually had good cash flow coming in because I was working 2 jobs, getting paid every 2 weeks. My wife was working, and she also would work a second job on and off. So at times, we had 8 paychecks coming in the household a month, and we regularly had 6 paychecks a month coming in. And when you have money coming in like that, that means you have good cash flow. And it's hard to identify yourself as being broke when you got check after check. It's always some money flowing in the house. But I was still living paycheck to paycheck, but having good cash flow, it just masked the problem. And the problem with that is that if it's masked and you can't really see it, well, then that problem starts bubbling up and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's exactly what happened. It got to the point where the credit cards was maxed out. And then that second job I had, we started leaning on that check more and more. And that used to be called the slush fund. That was deposited into a separate little account. And whoever needed some money, they'd just use that card and just take the money out of that because we didn't need the money for the second job to survive and pay our bills. It literally was a slush fund. But we started noticing, we started tipping and looking over there a little more and more and more. And finally, it came to a boiling point where, hey, what's going on here? We make way too much money to be broke. So we ended up self-identifying as living paycheck to paycheck, and that opened up a whole can of worms. But it was a good thing because it made us open our eyes. Identifying yourself as living paycheck to paycheck is the number one thing you have to do because that lets you know that there is a problem. And we was hiding behind good cash flow. Now, if you follow my channel, you know that we paid off over $100,000 worth of debt. We made a lot of mistakes along the way. I made a complete video on that. You can check that out and learn how to get out of debt faster than we did. But we ended up getting out of debt. But it started with identifying ourselves as living paycheck to paycheck and understanding that we make way too much money to be living this close to the edge. So something had to change. Now, the next step in the process is to determine why you're living paycheck to paycheck. And after we had identified it as an issue, now we like, okay, well, what's going on here? And that causes us to take a deep dive into our finances. And for me personally, I thought back to that person who was 20 years old, making $12,000 and paying his rent and having a car, going to school, doing all the things, struggling but still surviving. And I'm looking now, I'm making way more than $12,000 a year, but I'm still living paycheck to paycheck. What's going on here? Now, it's easy for someone to look in and say, oh, it's easy. You let lifestyle creep. It just crept up on you. You kept raising your standard of living. Well, let me newsflash for you. Let me tell you, coming from where I come from, I needed to raise my lifestyle a little bit. I needed to increase my standard of living a little bit. But what I will say is that it did get a little out of hand. And it's not that my lifestyle creep was the problem. The real problem was that I wasn't thinking long term. I didn't have any long term plans. Like right now, I can tell you how much money I need to be investing right now in order to have the amount of money that I already know I want 25 years from now. Now, 10 years ago, I wasn't thinking 25 weeks into the future, let alone 25 years. So lifestyle creep was part of it, but the bigger issue was that we didn't have any long-term goals for our money. We wasn't thinking far enough. And I was still focused on that. I just need to make more money. More money is the answer. If I do this, do that, make a little more, everything will be good. I was literally trying to out-earn my paycheck to paycheck mentality. So I had to get rid of that. Now that takes me to step 3. And this is where you got to get into action. And this was the hard thing because now it's not just conversation. Now it's not just looking yourself in the mirror. Now it's time to actually get down and do some work. And so what we had to do was we had to scale back our lifestyle a little bit. Maybe we can't buy that new gadget, whatever that was, or maybe take that trip or buy this, whatever we was doing. We had to kind of scale it back a little bit. Because at this point, we was actually making enough money, but we just wasn't prioritizing what we were spending our money on. This led us down a journey that ended up with us paying off all our debt, scaling our lifestyle back to a point where we're still comfortable, we still can take trips, but we're also saving and investing for not only future purchases, but also for our retirement. Now that we have kids, we have college funds that we have set up. We have UTMAs that's set up. We have all these different things, and our conversation around the house is different. Our thought process around money is different. It's all focused not on the things that we want today or the things we want to do tomorrow, but how do we want to live a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? What type of life do we want our kids to have? And none of this would have been possible if we didn't identify ourselves in that group that's living paycheck to paycheck. That's 78% of Americans that are living paycheck to paycheck. So now we have a game plan. Now, I'm making this sound very simple and easy in this video, but let me take you to step 4, which is stay focused. Step 4 is stay focused, because yeah, I can say it in a few sentences about how we got out of debt and all that, but that was a 3-year journey to get out of debt. It was a long time, and it was a big pile of debt. It was plenty of times during that journey that we wanted to quit. And there was times during that journey where we had emergencies pop up. Some months we couldn't put extra money on the debt. We had to use it for whatever it was that was right there in front of us. And then other months we were able to put a lot of money towards debt. And it was just an experience. But it was an experience that I'm so happy we went through, and I'm telling you, it was definitely worth it. So if you're living paycheck to paycheck and you're tired of it, here's what I want you to do. 1, you already did the first thing. Identify it as a problem. You've already acknowledged that you're living paycheck to paycheck. That's the first thing. The second thing I want you to do is to really look in the mirror and have an honest conversation with yourself. Pull your spouse in, pull your significant other in. Have an honest conversation about why you are where you're at. And for me, I remember standing in front of the mirror and just letting it go. I mean, the way I talk to myself, my wife used to walk by sometime and be like, you shouldn't talk to yourself like that. And I was like, it is what it is. I'm here because of the decisions that I made. I didn't try to blame anybody. I didn't try to pull anybody into my drama. It was all on me. I put it all on my shoulders. These are decisions that I made, and this is the result. And so it's on me to get it fixed. And I love that, because something I've realized through my financial journey is that when I have a problem, if it's my problem, if I'm the cause of the problem, I'm also the solution. So having that honest conversation, that's going to get you down to the root of it, of exactly why you are where you're at. And if you're living paycheck to paycheck because you're just not making enough money, and you know that you're being responsible, you know you don't have any expensive habits, you don't have any habits at all that's costing you money, then you know that you need to make more money. You have to then go in and develop a plan, which is number 3. Develop a plan on how you're going to overcome this. And if you're like me on the second phase of my life, when I was living paycheck to paycheck, and you're actually making enough money, but you're just kind of all over the place, not organized, and just overspending, and don't have a long-term plan, well, there you go. That goes into number 3, develop a plan. And so if you're needing to make more money, you have to ask yourself, how can I get more money at the job that I have? Is it a promotion that I can go for? Do I need to switch career fields? Is there a skill set that I need that I don't have, that I will have in the future to get more money? What am I going to do? What am I going to have a year from now that's going to allow me to be making more money? If money is your problem, then that has to be a part of your plan. And on the other end of the spectrum, if you're making more money, this plan includes, how can I reduce my spending? How can I scale back my lifestyle? This is going to require effort from you, your spouse, the kids. Everybody's going to have to get on board with this, because you're about to change up the whole energy in your household. So you have to do this because you're trying to get away from it. Because we know that paycheck to paycheck ain't no way to live. So we got to do something to get past it. And that's developing a plan. And number 4 is what's going to tie this all together. Number 4 is stay focused. Because I don't care if you're trying to go and get a new certification, maybe you need a new degree, or whatever it is you need, or over here you're trying to scale back the lifestyle, you're canceling a vacation, you're making sacrifices in order to win down the road, you're going to have to stay focused. When I was in my journey, there was a lot of people around me who did not understand the decisions that me and my wife was making. It was people who were like, that's good for you, that kind of thing. So you have to be ready for these folks to come around you, and some will love you, they'll hopefully support you, but they just may not understand it. And it's going to be up to you and whoever your accountability partner is to help you stay focused and stay on track. Because remember, the majority of the people out there living paycheck to paycheck, they're broke. So we don't want to be like that. You got to be different. This has been my take on living paycheck to paycheck. This has been my experience. I want to know yours. Comment down below and let me know where you're at in your journey. And before you get out of here, I want you to click on this video right here about why budgets are so important, because that was a critical point of everything that I've been able to accomplish financially. So hit that video up next. And until next time, my name is Diamond. Peace.